Hello, everyone, and we're back to the script. Yeah, I know the last three videos, I guess maybe three, were a bit off, but for some reason I kind of like was not feeling reading from the book. In all honesty, man, uh, I really think these kinds of I don't want to go off script. Okay, I really think these kinds of moods are deserving of attention in the similar fashion that I approached it, right? Because you kind of have to be consistent, or consistency is the key, but you don't really have to kind of like do exactly what you always do. And I think that's because like you kind of like you figured something out, but you're stuck, but you don't know why, so you kind of want to take a break. But if you take a break that's far away from what you're doing, you kind of like become scattered. But if you take a break towards what you're doing, but just kind of like explore different things. And for me, for example, what I highlighted was you have to be doing video study. I don't know what you're going to talk about because, like, I gotten used to the notes, if you want to say, or I've gotten to the point where the pattern is reading the notes and like having my mind move. But at one point felt like pressure. It always does. And for some reason, it always kind of like feels like pressure when like I'm going. I'm I really call it the butterfly effect because like a part of you is kind of like changing, but you don't know what it is, and then suddenly you're like, oh, I've been kind of like doing a whole lot, and the experience wants to kind of like get get to the surface, I guess, or you want to kind of like look at yourself differently, or maybe just like see how differently you can explore things. So your whole self kind of like starts. I don't know if I want to use the term pacing yourself, but giving whatever you've been like working on a chance to show you something that you're not seeing. And that probably also reflects on because like anytime you're doing something, the more you do it, the more cocky you become about it, or arrogant, or I want to say confident, but I explained what confidence is in my own terms about something else differently. So like if we're going to like approach arrogant ego stuff, I think arrogance maybe or cockiness. And even though you're not being an ass about it, right? You're technically just being egocentric about it. Egotistical, not egocentric. And so like these kinds of moods are like the moods that you actually have to like absorb fully. Like, okay, because there's a whole lot that kind of like piles up when you're being egotistical and not 100% like seeing what's going on. And it just means like instead of doing bits and pieces every day to absorb that stuff, you kind of absorb them once every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month. Fuck, I remember when I was in 2014, we had finished paying our debts for the restaurant, and like there was such a feeling that I was on a high for like two weeks. And what I did was I realized that it took me like 2.5 years to kind of like accomplish something. And the first thing I did was like, okay, so like my goals for life should literally be next time I want it to be at the very least 2 years, something reasonable, right? And I split it 2 years, 1 year, 1 year and a half, and I did 1 year and a half for 2 years in a row. But I kind of realized, shit, okay, so like because you lose track, you're completely like taken aback. You no longer focus on the plan, or the plan wasn't really like in detail for it to actually exist. But kind of like a good learning curve because it's honest, right? And now every 2 3 weeks I kind of go in the mood, but I do so many things in the day. So the and not so many things. I have many things in the day that are consistent. So just different moods and different things. Recently, I've been high on coding, so like me doing this kind of like dropped down. And guitar work, for example, has completely shifted. But that me because I've been doing things on my own and I haven't actually been like interested enough in the progression. So you have to like talk to people and figure something out or do research differently, right? Or like just like that kind of stuff. But anyway, so that not to make this video like off, the last three videos were me kind of in my feels and they were off script. We're back. Today's video is, and this is a good one, or at the very least, like I love these kinds of quotes. Avoid what doesn't help who learns it. And don't hurt who ignores it. Avoid what doesn't help who learns it. And don't hurt who ignores it. I don't know if it's Prahamsa Yogananda, Jiddu Krishna, or there's a third one I've been recently like following. I think he's one of the first people who went to the States, early 20s or like something. Vivekananda. Uh, Super powerful saying, man, because I really think this reflects our need to be seen and heard. So let me like break it down. Avoid what doesn't help who learns it, right? So if I notice that, for example, like a skill of some sort that doesn't really apply to the wielder, it's useless. And yet when it comes to like getting the skill, it's a lot of effort, right? And that's time wasted and energy wasted. But here, he's not really pointing at when you make a decision. You're free to make any decision you want. I never thought I was like musical until I grabbed the guitar and started like I was like I'm gonna play the guitar. So like I re-regulated on my own. It was a conscious effort from my side. But most of the time when we're conversing with people or engaging with people, what we really do is kind of like even if something doesn't help most of the time, what we do is we kind of like still advise them on shit or talk about it or try to like instill it in them. Like in here, avoid what doesn't help who learns it. Like if they learn it, it wouldn't help them. So there's no point for you to be basically an ass while trying to like help somebody basically. Help actually is a good word here because often that's what we feel like we're trying to do. Although I sincerely believe that helping somebody or using the term help is a is not really respectful for the other person being a human being. Naturally, if they ask for help, that's perfectly fine. But if you presume you want to help, I think that's like a horrible approach. Or at the very least, that's like subtly you not really respecting the other person or like believing in them or any of that good shit, right? But avoid what doesn't help who learns it. Like if it doesn't help them, there's absolutely no point for you to kind of like bring it up or even like whatever. Involve yourself in something that doesn't really help the other side, especially when it comes to them. When it comes to yourself, do whatever the fuck you want, man. You're a strong, independent man or woman. But it's like men these days are a bit less. Men these days are finding a hard time being vulnerable. I guess that's what I said. And so I fucking love flowers. If somebody ever gets me flowers, man, I actually like feel some kind of way because like they're genuinely just a show of affection. And so there's some fun stuff that we also would like to be involved in. I'm saying this is the other side of things. But yeah, you can do whatever the fuck you want, man. Strong independent man, strong independent woman, whatever the fuck you want when it comes to yourself. And don't hurt who ignores it. Now this is what basically like rattled me because in my past, especially after the past year, I came to realize how harsh I was in handling situations. And most of it is because I was always disappointed. Get it? I'm saying the term disappointed because that's what I thought back then. I was always disappointed that people could were not able to kind of like I don't want to say see things the way I do, but I was always disappointed because for some fucked up reason I'd always think I communicated properly and expectations were shared. And the disappointment that I have was literally a form of judgment, a fucked up form of judgment, but it was. And naturally, how do you act when you're kind of like resentful of something? Like a fucking cunt. And so I noticed this time around, anytime I'm actually like about to say something, which is huge. But recently, I've been noticing anytime I start thinking about something. And the last 3 videos are actually proof. So I think like there's a beautiful progression in how we bring everything that's deep inside to the surface. And again, we don't dive for it. Because when we dive for it, it's still a lot of effort to kind of like receive it. No, we have to bring it to the surface. And then ultimately, like, it's a beautiful fucking lake that's shallow enough for you to have your own space, but also that's deep enough for you to have your own space, but shallow enough for you to be able to reach for anything you want naturally because it's yours. Avoid what doesn't help who learns it, and don't hurt who ignores it. Some people want to live their life any way they fucking want. And I think all of us deserve that, even though some people are fucking assholes. But hey, it's a video.